I love this topic because I actually believe that what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. But I find it fascinating to listen to what other people see in me or what they perceive in me, because I'm being a reflection to them.
Debz is a stressologist. She will stretch your mindset to think bigger than you've ever thought before, with follow-through techniques that are realistic and achievable to blow any fear out of your mind. Moira is a mindset cultivator. She will help you align your personal trinity of self-trust, inner awareness, and self-confidence so that you discover and share your unique gifts and purpose. Together, their goal with these conversations is to share how our inclinations do not always work in our best interest, and to provide the knowledge to leverage the gifts that already exist within each one of us. Their desire is to help you learn how to access the habits and behaviors that will lead to positive change and your best quality of life. Welcome to your deliciously motivated mindset.
Hi, Moira, and
Hello.
Hi, listeners.
Hello.
I know I'm trying not to say this is a goodie. This is, welcome everybody, welcome. Of course, everybody knows what we're talking about because it's on the
It's on the title slide that you can see already.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Unless you can't read, and then you just have to listen, so you just have to wait.
Yeah.
But for those who know what we're talking about and those who don't, welcome to Deliciously Motivated Mindset with Debz and Moira. Thanks for joining us today. Wow. Okay, so our random, what I've got to remember is we're going to rate ourselves. And when we say rate ourselves, this is on a scale of 0 to 10 of where we are emotionally, physically, mentally, just where we are. Mm-hmm. So 10 being stuck in the mud, completely chaotic, just can't see yourself out of that spot, and 0 being zen. I wonder if we've got any zeros on here already. Okay. Don't bullshit yourself, people. So if you're a 0 already, so what scale would you be? Where would you be on a scale of 10 to 0? So Moira, what's your number?
Well, I'm feeling pretty zen now.
Don't you dare say 0.
You're so funny, because now it's starting to like, oh my gosh, Deb gets very competitive. Like, I'm going to have a different number than you. Actually, I'm going to back up a little bit because
I'm going to put mine down.
We like to just check in to say where are we before we started talking, and then Deb and I always chit chat and figure out the world and deal with stuff, and then we hit record. So yes, I'm going to say that I think I was probably like maybe a 4 when I first came on. And then we chatted about different things, and we got some calendar issues that we had sorted out. And so that felt good, felt calming. And I think I'm going to put myself at a 2.5. I'm actually quite looking forward to our conversation that we haven't told our listeners what it is yet.
We haven't verbally spoken what it is.
Well, but yeah, that's what I'm going to 2.5.
I'm going to say a 4 and a 2.5. Okay. Haha, beat you. I did write mine down, listeners. So I'm actually going to say I'm a 3, because even though today when we get off this podcast, I'm jumping in a car to travel and then we fly, I feel everything's in order and I feel actually okay. Mm-hmm. So I was a 3 when we started talking to Moira, and then there was a couple of things I wanted to address with her. So we've got those out of the way. We've got some clarity around where we're going. Exciting times ahead. Slip that one in.
Yes, very exciting.
That one.
Stay tuned.
So I'm going to say I'm a 1.5 now. just because I feel everything's, I don't know if you get like when I go to travel, everything has to be in order and packed. And then I've also got to go, okay, when I come back home and back into the office, is everything in order in case something happens? I just, so it's not just packing the bag, it's packing the bag, got there, got enough time, coming back, is everything in order? Do I know where everything is if something happens? That if I need to go, can you pop into the office and pick something up? So I actually feel I'm a 1.5, which is quite surprising before I travel.
That's awesome for you.
Yeah,
I'm impressed.
I know. And I think that helped because there was a couple of things for Moira and I to chat about before we got on here. So that's why I've gone from a 3 to 1.5. Awesome. But I'm really looking forward to today's talk. Really looking forward to. So what we're going to talk about. So listeners, write that number down. Let us know where you are. And then at the end, we're going to ask you that same question again. That's if Moira and I remember. So today's topic is, how are you perceived by others? And this, we can break down what others are and what perceived.
Who are these others?
Who are they? Wasn't there like a thing called The Others? Wasn't there a series or something?
Yeah,
there was something spooky. So. The Others.
I think you're right.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know about it.
Clearly, we don't know. Yeah, that's the one. So it's not by those others for people who want to know. So how are you perceived by others? So Moira, I'm going to throw this at you. Boom, go. You start. I'll just chip in here.
I love this topic because I actually believe that what we see in others is a reflection of ourselves. But I find it fascinating to listen to what other people see in me or what they perceive in me, because I'm being a reflection to them, right? But there's been some very fascinating things have happened to me over the years about how people will tell me that I'm perceived. And so the one thing that really stands out for me is, and I can't remember the name of this test. You know how there's so many different like personality tests and you know the INFP and all that kind of like personality parts, but there's this one, and the woman who developed this body of work, her name is Sally Hogshead, and it was like I'm totally drawing a blank right now. But the reason I'm bringing this up is it's because it's a personality test that actually tells you, the person taking the test, how other people see you, how you are perceived. It's like the perceive. Maybe it's the attractor factor or something.
I'm Googling as she's talking.
It could be something like that. But so the funny part is, and why I'm sharing this with you, Deb, and our listeners, it's that when I did the test, I came out as being a trendsetter. And I was like, everybody that I was with, I knew quite a lot of people, and they were like,
don't mean to laugh.
No freaking way am I a trendsetter. They're just like, it was so bizarre and so alien to me. And so people were looking at me and going, yes, you are, Moira. Like, you do the whole purple thing, and you do the meditation thing, and you do the breathing thing. And they started like listing out all these things that I was a trendsetter for. But why was really funny, because the as I kind of integrated it, I did see it. I got it. But it was a really unique, fun experience that I don't necessarily go out and say, hey, I'm a trendsetter, but I do really embrace who I am, because it's lovely to visit yourself through the eyes of other people.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, when you said trendsetter, I just instantly just laughed and went, oh my God, Moira, trendsetter. And then I went, oh my gosh, she so is. She's somebody, and exactly those things you just said. You know, she's somebody who would just go, I'm going to wear purple today. Yep. You know, it's a black event. I'm going to wear purple. I'm going to wear dark purple. Yep. I'm not going to wear black. You know, people will just do a double take and go, she got black on, or she got dark purple, you know, and that's exactly it. But yeah, when you first said a trendsetter, I was like, a trendsetter, and then went, oh my God, she so is. That's exactly it. So yeah, Sally Hogshead is her name. have
Yes.
a Google. I'm definitely going to curious to have a look at that. But that's exactly it. It's only when you stop. So that first initial bang,
Yeah.
and then you go, oh, and then you go, actually, yeah, you've got a point. And I was thinking when you were saying that, testimonials is a great one, because I know when clients say to me, I'll give you a testimonial, and they say, oh, you know, and they rave about you. And I'm like, God, I only just helped you a little bit.
Yeah.
But you forget the impact of, and this is one of the reasons why we rate ourselves here to start and end, because it actually gives us a realization to say, yes, it is working, or yes, they do, you know, they said that one comment that we can run with or something. But testimonials is a funny one when you say to people, can you write a testimonial for me? And they go, yeah, and they write it, and you're like, oh my God, that's me. In fact, I think you and I have had a conversation about that.
I think
Someone
we have
wrote a beautiful testimonial, and you were like, oh, listen to this one. And I was like, that's you. And you're like, oh, and you just get floored. You just get floored with those things. And, you know, even when people, because I find we don't take that compliment, that acknowledgement, that nod as easily as we do as giving it out. And I know when people say, oh, thank you for doing that to me, I'm like, you know, and sometimes you just go, oh God, didn't even do anything. You know, I just gave you a smile or something. And you don't think, because that's your nature. You know I will acknowledge waitresses or waiters or wait staff, and then people go, gosh, you're so polite, you look them in the eye and you acknowledge them. I'm like, I've been there, done that. So I do. But you don't, but for them, they've probably been around people who haven't had that. So then when you do say it, it's over the top for them. Beautifully over the top, not over the top, you know. And for me, it just comes naturally. You're like, oh, thank you. I mean, I'm not going to thank you for your service if it's crap, but I'm generally going to say thank you if, you know, until I reflect and realize it was my stuff at the end of it anyway.
But you know what
testimonials is a great one when how you perceive by others.
Absolutely, it's an excellent way. But it's also how do your peers, what do your peers say to you? Because I was thinking of another example. For me, I'm a meditation teacher. I'm a hypnotherapist. I really help people get back down into a sense of peace and calmness. And so really funny story was happening was I was working with somebody, and we were going on a Facebook Live, and every technical issue that could have possibly gone wrong did this morning. And she was running around like a headless chicken thinking, oh my God, what about this? And getting really stressed. So as soon as we got everything figured out, because I think it was me that was like stepping in first. And I just showed up. I took a deep breath and said, we had a few technical glitches, but here we are, and blah, 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 blah. And she was
carried on.
Yeah. And so that's what my friend said to me afterwards. It's like, how on earth did you do that? And I thought, well, there's no other way to be. Like I do. And so that's what it became a bit of a laugh, is that we could be, you know, the world could be erupting and chaos, and Moira's going to say, and take a deep breath and come into this moment.
That's look, there's so many. I'm just thinking of all these examples of this, and that's a great one, because I was talking to a girlfriend the other day, and I don't know the full story. Like, it was a scenario, these two people, I'd love to know who it was. They ran a marathon. They got to the end of the marathon, and they were handing out free bagels.
Okay.
When you got to the end of the marathon, you got a free bagel. And so the two people said, one said, let's go get a free bagel. And the other person said, but there's a line. There's a queue. There's a line.
Right.
And the other person said, yeah, but there's a free bagel. Yeah, but there's a line. And it was interesting. So when I started reading this article, I'm like, oh, free bagel. I'll be in for a bagel, free food. You know, I love a bagel. After you've had a run, it's just something straight away. It's into you. You don't then have to worry about getting something afterwards, you know, da-da-da. And my girlfriend was like, but there's a line. And even she was saying, there's a line. Would you queue? And I'm like, yeah, definitely I'd queue, because I would stand in that queue with that person, and I would talk to them about their run. How did they go? What's going on? Where are they going after this? Da, 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 da.
Right.
And you wouldn't even know the queue, or I'd jump the queue. Find some excuse. But it was interesting. And she said, all I see is the line.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened in this conversation with these two people who had just run this marathon. All this one person saw is the other line, and the other one said, I see the free bagel.
Right.
And it just made me go, oh my gosh, we're actually quite often worlds apart on what we see.
Yep.
And how we perceive by others is I instantly, and she said, well, how do you see the free bagel? I said, well, and I was just like, well, how do you see a line? That was my question. And then she's like, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, oh, well, I would just, and so I started, yeah, like I was completely perplexed how you could see the line. Like I saw the line and then just went, oh, it's a free bagel. It's not even a line. Like, so if it took 10 minutes to get there, and so what I did was I just started linking. I linked why standing in that line was a high priority to me to get the end result.
Free bagel.
Yeah, to get the free bagel.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
But that's an interesting point because that is very true of how do people perceive you, and how do we perceive what the reaction is. Because what you're making me think of is a conversation. I actually had this conversation a couple of weeks ago with my husband, that up until the times that we live in, I never liked going through self-checkout. Actually, neither of us did. Neither of us liked going through self-checkout. So we'd always go like in the grocery store or any kind of store that has self-checkout. Well, pretty much every time I go through self-checkout now, because there's huge lines everywhere. And so that's what I was thinking and so we were having this conversation that he still will not go through self-checkout. And I'm like,
really?
Yeah. And I'm like, well, I'm willing to put up with my discomfort of self-checkout because I don't want to stand in the line. I'd rather go zip it through by myself and I'm out of the store. So I shifted.
That's it.
Right.
And he's still seeing the line.
You're still like, nope, I'm in the line because I'm not doing that.
He's doing the bagel. Yeah, it's well, even just when you said self-checkout, I freaking hate self-checkout. And I just feel I just feel I'm keeping them employed by going to
that's
the
exactly
checkout
what he says. That's
keeping them employed.
Story.
Yeah. So recently I went to the Christmas, going to the self-checkout. I went to the self-checkout and it just beeped. And so I had to get the lady over 3 times. I had to get, so I'm like, I'll just stand in the queue. It's lovely. I can chat to the people. I can just stand there. It's fine. I talk to everyone around. I'm one of those people if I'm in the mood. And so I got there and then 3 times I had to get the lady over and she was like, and I'm like,
no.
Don't tut at me. And I said, this is not my thing. Because I'm like, are you serious? And I'm going, this is confirmation. I should never go to the self-checkout. And then I wanted to swipe my loyalty card. And she goes, oh, you can't swipe it. You've got to manually enter it. And it's like 17 numbers.
Oh, goodness.
And so I'm like, are they going to change this? Yeah, she said, you're probably about the 150th person who's asked me that. She said, and I've only been here just over an hour. I said, oh, self-checkout's really popular then. And I was thinking, bitch. But anyway, I would rather, unless I'm on a time zone, I would rather go and stand in that queue. Yeah. Right. And just go, look at the people I can talk about. That's funny. So you've moved on that. Yeah.
I've moved, but it's really funny. A couple of days ago, I went to Costco, and so they have these Nazi, no, not really. You have these overlookers, like you go on that line and you go there and you go there.
Oh, I don't like people. They have those at customs queue. They're like, stand there, and I'm like, I don't want to stand there. I've calculated how fast that queue's going, and then I just move my own queue anyway. Yeah.
So I already had to stand in this big lineup to get to this woman who then was telling me which way to go. But she looked at all the stuff in my basket and she says, you can go to self-checkout, which is fine. I'm totally fine with that. But
I stood here for this long to go to self-checkout.
But each of the self-checkout kiosks are manned by a person. So it's them that's scanning it. Because I went to do it and she said, no, you stand over there. And she did it. I'm like, okay, whatever. But it meant I got out way faster than anybody else that had to go through the other lineup. So it's like, I'm good. This quote unquote self-checkout that somebody else just did for me.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, well, it was interesting to think about the bagel and the queue, and then go, and even when the conversation went, how do you see the bagel? How do you not see the queue? And I was really like, this is a dumb question. Literally, I'm thinking, this is a dumb question. You don't see it. Like you literally don't. And she said, no, I'm serious. And I'm like, so am I. You don't see it. It's not there. It's like the bagel. And she goes, no, Deborah, can you just stop and tell me, how do you? And then I went, okay, she's really serious here.
Yeah.
Even though she said it a couple of times. I need to look and go, how do I see the bagel? Like, how do I miss that cue?
Yeah.
And then I realized, and that's what it was. I just linked a lot of things to a lot of, my priority things to that, to what's important to me. Getting the free bagel at the end is probably $3.50 or something. But there was a lot of linking, and I just went, and that's it.
But don't you think this is a fascinating line for us to go down? Line, Q.
Self-checkout, all the bagel people.
Yeah. But no, so it's really fascinating, because your immediate impression when the person says, how can you not see the queue? And you're thinking, well, how can you not see the bagel? where you know what it is, though, because we are all wired in different ways. Like you're saying, you have different associations, and you have different priorities, and you have different ways of perceiving your environment and what you're willing to do.
Your viewer, your eyes.
Yeah. But and a really cool example about this is, I think it also has a lot to do with how we make decisions.
A quick wee message before we get back to this episode. You can get access to a special gift Moira and Debz have put together for you. Go to deliciously-motivated-mindset.com/gift. When you sign up, you'll receive instant access to an inner peace kit and the 30 Days of Wisdom program, both of which is intended to help you feel deliciously motivated right away. Go to deliciously-motivated-mindset.com/gift.
And so I had a conversation with a really good friend of mine who's a pretty powerful business coach. And she is, we actually talked about this later, that through human design is a whole body of work that helps people see what kind of personality types they are. But also I like to use it because I get to see and help people see what is their inner authority. So their inner authority is how they make their decisions. And so this conversation I had with my friend, she was, I believe she was, her way of making decisions was a gut reaction. So gut reaction people make decisions very, very quickly, and they do not need to think about it. It's like, it's either yep, no. And the same for me. Mine is my intuition. So I'm not going to even ruminate or wonder if I'm going to go self-checkout or not. I'll decide when I'm there. Whereas other people who are more of a head-based decision maker or a emotion-based, then they take a lot more time, and they're going to see completely different things to what I might see or what you might see. And so that was the thing, was that she was, I think it was a conversation with somebody they were either going to do a coaching program with her or not. And they said they had to go away and think about it. And she said she'll never forget that just, she was aghast. It's like, what do you mean you have to go and think about it? It's like, you're either doing it or you're not. Like, hello?
Yeah. And that's so true. When you were saying that, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's so many times people have gone, okay, let me think about that. And I'm like, well, are we turning left or right? Like, we're coming up to the lights. You've got 10 seconds. Are we turning? Oh, I just need to think about, no, there is no time. I'm going left. Like, we can always turn around. Like, it's real. And when you were saying that, I just went, imagine being painstaking. And in my mind, I went into judgment then. I went into, oh my gosh, imagine going, I have to think about this. I really need 24 hours, 48 hours to go away and think about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, imagine having that. And instantly I went, imagine having that pain in your mind that, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to think about this. Is this like the best thing for me? Let me work out the pros and cons. which is, I think, is possibly a wise person to work out the pros and cons or not. But I went, oh my God, imagine having to do that for every single thing.
I know.
But then I went, I use my intuition, but then I went, I do use my intuition, but I also make a decision. Sometimes I go, I need to think about this and work out. So there are times that I do that in my mind, painstaking, and it just allows me to go have more certainty in that, to go, yep, I've done that. Yes. I can work it out. It's more value doing it than not doing it. I'm in with turning left or right. But I will wait till I get to the front of that queue before I decide.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's the thing. But, I'm thinking about this and I'm going, how are you perceived by others? And I know I say this all the time. I say, I don't really care if people like me or don't like me.
Yeah.
I know that. But there's still that little inkling within us that we all still want people to actually like us.
Like us and say we're okay. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That we're all on. Yeah. Even though I just go, I don't really care if you like me or don't like me. I'm still going to sleep at night. Like, people say things, I'm like, well, whatever you say to me, I'm still going to sleep tonight. But at the end of the day, I still want to make people fulfilled and okay with who they are.
Yeah.
And I think that's that. Yeah, it's a human condition. It's got that little heartfelt in there of that. So you don't want to strip people and slice people of anything.
Of course.
Because that's not who we are as a person. And even those people who you think are a-holes, they're not really. There's something going on in their world.
Absolutely.
Today, yesterday, or whenever they said that. You don't know what's going on. And, how you perceived by others can be from the way you've slept, the nutrition you've had that day. If you've potentially woke up in a bad mood, if you've hit the floor running and you haven't had a break, all those emotional, mental wobbles can decide on how you react or not react to things.
Have you ever had a scenario or a situation where you were perceived by others or an other in a way that you found it really outlandish, like it was just like, no way am I that or like that?
When I was younger, I had definitely many. When I was young, I remember one younger, and I got involved in, and it was quite it was a court case.
Okay.
And people were saying things about, and I was left with, are you serious? Like,
yeah,
you are lying on the Bible. The stuff you're saying, look at me. Like, it wouldn't even enter my head. Then it entered my head, and I wish I'd done half the stuff they were saying. But it's like, that's a good one. That's bloody a good one. But yeah, definitely. And when people say it, I get floored.
Yeah.
Like, oh, she did this. She says this. And I'm like, what? I'm intelligent, but I'm clearly not that intelligent that I didn't think about that. Like, that would have been good. If I'd done that, you would know.
Right.
But I was left, I do know then, I was left quite hurt.
Right.
I was floored from it. And then I'm like, how can I believe that?
Yeah.
But I also learned lies at that time, that the more people lie, the more they're embedded into that web, and then they start believing it themselves.
Absolutely.
So not only do they say you are this, but they actually start to, spit out, and then they believe it themselves. And when they're saying it, they actually believe that lie is their truth.
Absolutely.
And I learned a lot about that during that court case time, because it was quite a long process. I learned a lot about human interactions and what people do. I mean, I know when you lie, you're backed into a corner and you lie to get yourself out. I believe that.
Yeah.
And we don't lie to hurt people, but we definitely do certain things. But that I was left with, oh my God, you truly believe that? Wow.
Yeah.
And then you start, the worst thing is you start going, maybe I did say that. Maybe I did do that.
Oh yeah. Then you start second guessing yourself.
And then you're like, did I say that? I'm sure I didn't. Did I do that? Even though it's one of those ludicrous things. And that's when you know you're in trouble, because their they're filtering whatever has been thrown into you, and you're starting to take that into your bubble. And that's when, as soon as you start self-doubting yourself, you're on a spiral downhill.
Yeah, and that's why I asked you the question, because it's happened to me before. But there's some really heavy scenarios of that. But the one that I think, because I think sometimes when we are being perceived and we hear that what the perception is, and it's really outlandish. There was one time where I was actually working with somebody. We were co-creating a course to teach. It ended up not going anywhere, and she said she couldn't work with me because I was way too bossy. Deb, you and I've been doing these podcasts together for over a year now. How bossy am I? So it was
not the word that I would label you at.
No, and so when she said that, was like, I don't know who you're talking about, because I've always shown up with, let's talk about this, and what would you like? And anyways, what was really funny was I actually realized that was her. It was because she wanted to be completely in charge and tell me how it was going. The truth is I'm a very strong person, but bossy, like you just said, bossy is not something that I am.
Yeah, bossy. I'm even just trying to say, so it's definitely, so, people say, oh, you're aggressive.
Yeah.
To me, oh, that's a very aggressive. And I'm like, well, I would label it certainty.
Yeah.
And so my word is, I personally wouldn't say I was aggressive, but it's their word. I would say I've got certainty, definitely. Yeah. And if you're having a discussion with me, I may have more certainty than you.
Perhaps. But that's the thing. And that's why I'm saying about the being aware of how others are perceiving you, but you also need to have in the back of your mind that we actually don't always see others how they are. We see them as we are. And so if somebody's saying, oh, you're aggressive, they're showing you how they are.
Or they're trying to hide that aggressiveness, and they're starting to boil. They're starting to boil, and they can feel it.
Yeah.
But it is interesting, and you can react differently if it's a public thing or not public, where you are in public, or what they say to you, and who they get on their train, who to believe. Because people try and get as many people on their train to give them the certainty and that huge backing that I'm right, they're wrong. Yeah. Did you know they? And you see people on social media. Did you know that this company did this, this, and this, and this, this, and this, and did you know so and so did this? And it's just gaining their support, so that they have more certainty in who they are. But really, it's the only two people involved are you and them. And so you'll know that, and people see that with the media. You can watch one thing. There was something, it was Prince William, and he looks like, it's a picture, and I'll actually send it to you, Moira, afterwards. And he looks like he's doing the middle finger.
Okay.
And he's actually looks like he's doing the middle finger from a side-on view.
Right.
But from a front view, he's doing something very different. But side-on looks like he's going, F you.
Right.
And front view of the camera, where they've taken a photo, you actually see the full thing. And it just shows you how people can see that side view and have such a, that's disgusting that the Prince of England is doing this, this, and this, and this is appalling. And then you see the front view, and it just shows you the camera angles. And it just shows exactly that it's wiser to see all angles of people, that they are mean, they are kind, they're generous and stingy, that everybody has all sides, and we play up to whatever side we want out there.
Absolutely. And I love that you brought that into this conversation, because let's say he really was doing the middle finger. So what?
Oh,
it's like,
you're making me shudder now. You're right. So what?
But do you see, it's like, why does that matter? Because really what really matters is how does this make me feel about me? So anybody that's getting into, oh my God, that's terrible, and look at this, and they shouldn't be doing it.
Well, if he did do the middle finger, something pretty big must have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But at the same time, a person who's getting all their knickers in a twist about it, but they might not be feeling that great about themselves.
And that tangles into another one of the bully, because we go now there's a podcast title, add that to your list, something along those. But the bully is just a label, but they're not having a great day when they're firing on all cylinders. They're not having a great day themselves, and they just want to fire at somebody else to make themselves feel better, which we know doesn't in the end.
It doesn't, but that is, and actually, my life was made awful by a bully at school, in high school in Edinburgh. And I met the bully in my adult life a couple of years later, and he was being all flirty and chatty to me. And I'm like,
I just want to
remember who I am, do you? And he actually, it was a really interesting experience, because I'm being very standoffish and thinking I don't really want to engage with this person because of the sort of 4 years of horrible treatment. And so when I said to him, "You don't remember who I am," and he said no, and said, "No, but I feel like I must have hurt you." And I said, "Well, hurting me that's like a really low,
lovely way."
Yeah. Anyways,
that's a nice, gentle approach.
the short version of that story was he was appalled. He got very teary-eyed at how I felt and what I said to him, the legacy of his treatment to me. But then he let me kind of get the inside scoop into what was happening for him, and it actually was still continuing. He was being abused at home, and there was all this horrible expectations from his parents and things like that. And that was always stayed with me, because like you're saying, that bully is so suffering, and he was suffering beyond anybody's comprehension.
Yeah, and I think we forget about that. Put yourself in their, we hear that saying, put yourself in their shoes.
Yes.
Put yourself in their shoes. And if we could put ourselves in their shoes, life would be very different, and our interactions would be very, very different.
Because then we would recognize that whether you saw the bagel or the queue, it's all okay. It's the different flavors of us that make it all work well, right?
I have to tell you, the thing is, when I read it, it was the bagel and the queue. And when she kept repeating it to me, she said the ice cream and the queue. Oh. And I said to her, it wasn't an ice cream, it was a bagel. She goes, no, it was an ice cream. I said, no, it wasn't queuing for the ice cream, it was queuing for a bagel. So I went back and checked, and it was queuing for a bagel. And I said, look. And she went, I read ice cream. I forgot about that just when you said about the different flavors. And so she even changed this. Ice cream is one of her favorite things. So she even changed that queue. But even still, she wouldn't. All she would see was the queue to get to the ice cream. Now the ice cream is more important than a bagel. But she still saw the queue.
Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing? Well, dear,
so how are you perceived by others? Can we do another 2 on this? A number?
I think we could go way deep in this one. This has been a really good conversation.
This rabbit hole's just started.
I know. Definitely. Let's all go spiraling down into this one. So, dear listeners, we would like for you to check in on that scale. And of course, we know that you wrote the number down because Deb told you to do so.
And of course, what I tell you, you would have done.
So, Deb.
Because if not, I'm going to judge you.
So, what's happened to your number?
I'm actually going to say I'm a 0. I'm going to say I'm a 0.
I was kind of thinking that too.
Yeah, I feel you're a 0 too.
I'm a 0 too. Yeah. See, we got ourselves totally zenned out. This has been a really good conversation, and it kind of went in different areas than I thought it was going to, but it's been
Totally
great.
different.
Yeah. So
Totally different.
I hope this has opened up our listeners' perspective into how are you perceived by others? Do you like the perception that you are viewed through others' eyes? Do you like that person? Is that the real you? Are you letting the real you come out and play and shine and be seen?
I'm going to check out that Sally thing too. That link.
Yeah.
I'm going to check her out.
I actually got to meet her.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
of course you did.
Was that a conference? What can I say?
Of course you did.
No, I actually really, really valued that body of work. It was because, like I said, there's so many different tests that we can do online, the personality test, to actually get to see us. But that one in particular was to help you see you through the eyes of other people. See, this is trendsetter Moira speaking.
Yeah. Of course you're a trendsetter. Of course, when you said that, I laughed and I went, Moira, a trendsetter, and then went, oh my God, she so is. She so is.
Yeah, it took me a wee while to. Did you know that? So there was two. I can't remember what the two pieces are. I do remember that the one was rebel, because the idea.
That's you.
And I'm like, yeah. And so, funny story. I was at a conference when we were doing this, and so we had to walk around with lanyards with the two different types that we wear, and so I had rebel.
That would be
People
right.
are looking at me going, "You're a rebel." Yeah, I'm a rebel.
Yeah, and when you'd see Moira sitting there, you probably wouldn't see. I would think a rebel's someone on a motorbike with leathers, you know.
I
Wasn't
could
funny?
carry that. I could carry that.
Yeah, you could. You totally could. Your long legs. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
Yes, thank you, everybody. This has been lots of fun, and like you say, Deb, I think we'll come and circle back around and on a part 2, maybe even a part 3 on this one.
Definitely. Yeah, I think we're going to go down the rabbit hole. I'd like to do that. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, dear listeners. Thank you, Deb. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.